Snapchat filters are so weird how they change your face, but okay. So I'm gonna get into the story now. So you know how in movies, in Hollywood movies, you always see these grand romantic gestures or these really cute moments where people ask out other people in really cute ways. And as an audience member during these movies, you're like, oh, that's so cute, I wish something like that would happen to me, but obviously it's just Hollywood, it's just fake, it would never come true. Well, I was actually lucky enough to have a really cute moment like that in my real life, and I love telling this story, and I've probably told this story to everyone I know. I want to try the other Snapchat filters, like I would love to do all of them, but some of them have voice changers, and I don't want my voice changed right now, so I'm just gonna have to stick with the same ones. So basically how it all starts is that I decided to leave college. I was in college, and I was not doing well with the environment. That's a whole other story for a whole other video of how I ended up leaving school, but basically to summarize it, I decided to stop going to classes and just start working. So I was living on the East Coast at that time, and when I decided to leave school, I chose to move to the West Coast because my family, part of my family, lives in California. And my grandmother is like a very typical Mexican grandmother, very loving and accepting of all her grandkids. And so I talked to my cousin, made arrangements to move out there, talked to my grandma, and she was like, of course you can stay with me as long as you need to, like, I love you always. So long story short, I worked for several months in my college town, and then I got a ticket, I got on the plane, and I flew to California. So in the neighborhood where my grandmother lives, if you walk a few blocks over, there's a big plaza with a lot of like restaurants and stores, and there's a grocery store and banks and stuff. And of course, the main staple of any plaza is a Starbucks. So I would go there pretty much every day, probably multiple times a day. And I had never officially lived in California. I had visited my family there before, but it was my first time living out there. I didn't really have any friends. I didn't really have a social life. And eventually I started working at the grocery store next door to it, and I also started working at the sandwich shop a few doors down. So that gave me even more reasons to always be in that Starbucks, because I would go there before work and get espresso, and I would go there after work and get more espresso, and in between the jobs. I just relied on a lot of espresso during that time in my life, and so I would be in there all the time. I was like a regular customer for sure. I was probably there way too much. So one day I walk in there, and I notice there's a girl behind the counter who has her hair in a ponytail. She has on a black t-shirt with a collar, almost like a polo shirt, like gray cargo shorts. I think it was, or tan cargo shorts, I don't know. But it was basically the typical Starbucks uniform of a black shirt and tan pants.
And when I saw the cargo shorts, I was like, my gaydar started to go off a little bit.
I know that it's bad to generalize people, and I know that it's bad to stereotype people, but sometimes as a gay woman, you start to rely on certain features to like tip you off when another gay woman's around. And the cargo shorts, I was kind of like, And I also just thought she was really cute in general. But I had no idea how to figure out if she liked girls or if she was single or anything really about her. So I started trying to kind of flirt with her. I one time went to order a drink, and I was like, surprise me, like just make whatever you like. And she ended up making me a caramel frappuccino, I think, which I had never had before, surprisingly enough, because I had always stuck with like chocolate flavored drinks or like green tea. I'd never had caramel. And so she made me that, and she asked if I liked it, and I tried to be like joking and teasing, and I was like, no, I don't like it, because I'm terrible. She like offered to remake it or make me a different drink, and I was like, no, like I'm just kidding, it's really good. And then I was just really shy. Like when I would go to hand her my debit card, I would shake. I did not know how to progress it and also I didn't want to hit on her while she was working, because that can be really awkward for someone that's working a service job. Because they really have no choice but to be nice to people. Like, I work in service jobs, and when someone's making you uncomfortable, you kind of have to just, like, smile through it. So that made me feel a little guilty. Like, I didn't really... So then I was like, okay, I'll go in at a time when her shift's almost over, and that way when she's off work, I can ask her out, and that way she can say no, and it won't be as awkward because she's not. Like, she can reject me if she wants to, because she won't be on the clock, so she doesn't have to worry about being nice, and... but I was hoping she would be into me. And at the time, I actually had convinced myself that I was going to write a novel. So I brought my laptop to Starbucks, and I was working on my novel and waiting. And I was sitting at the bar, and I was just like typing away, editing the stuff I'd written, and waiting for her shift to be over because I didn't know when it would be over. Actually, now that I think about it, that was pretty creepy. But it's in the past now, so what am I going to do? So during the time that I was waiting for her, this man came and sat next to me, and I didn't know who he was or that he was a regular at Starbucks. And he started asking me questions about the stuff I was typing, and I was telling him about my book. I had no way of knowing that he kind of had a reputation for being a little bit not great with personal boundaries and being a little creepy, if I can say that. And we were having friendly conversation, just casual chit-chat, and then I was waiting for her to get off work, and she did. And then she just, like, immediately left. Like, before I could even, just as I barely realized that she was off her shift. She was like, she clocked out, and then she, like, flew out the door. So then I was stuck sitting there at the bar with this guy, and so I was kind of trying to leave the Starbucks at that point, because I was like, well, my plan failed, it's time to go home and give up. But he, like, wouldn't stop talking to me. So when I actually finally got up to leave, he asked me for my phone number, and I didn't know how to say no. I felt like I would be mean, and I was embarrassed. So I gave him my phone number, and that was a massive failure of a day. Not only did she leave without me getting to talk to her, but now this guy had my phone number. And there's actually more to that story too, but I'm going to put that in a probably future video and get back to the story about how I ended up talking to this girl. So then some time passed, and I continued to go to the Starbucks and kind of see her, but not really, I was too shy to say anything. And we would sort of flirt a little bit every now and then, but again, it was just very casual, and I was very shy. So around that time, it was going to be the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade, which I've always wanted to go to, but never been in the area at that time. I've never gotten to go to it because I've never been in California at the time that it was happening. So my best friend and I had plans to go to it together because she happened to be in the area too. But like I said, I was working 2 different jobs, and it turned out that all my coworkers had requested time off to go to the SF Pride Parade, and I hadn't, so I had to cover their shifts. So when I had been in college, I had been in a couple different kind of like LGBT or like gay friendly organizations. So from being in these different organizations, I had a couple of different things on my backpack, like little rainbow pins and ribbons and stuff. So I went into Starbucks a few days before the Pride Parade, and she saw them on my backpack when I went to get my wallet out. She was like, oh, are you gonna go to the SF Pride thing? And I was happy because I was like, yes, she knows I'm gay now. So I was like, no, I really wish I was going, but I can't. And she was like, well, I'm gonna go. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be so much fun, I'm so jealous. So then some more time passed, and she came back to work after the parade, and I asked her how it went, and she started to tell me all about it. And then I ordered my usual green tea frappuccino with whipped cream. So it had a round lid, and she was working the register but also the bar, so she took my order and I paid, and then she went over to the bar and started making my drink. And she called out my name to pick up my drink. I went over to get it, and I noticed that there was something written on the lid, and I had butterflies in my stomach, and my palms were sweating, and I was super nervous, but I tried to just pretend like, play it cool, play it off, play it casual, and I did my best to walk out of the store with my cup without, like, tripping, falling, having a heart attack, crying. And then I ran over to the grocery store that I worked at next door. I wasn't, like, on schedule or anything, I just ducked in there and freaked out. You know how at Starbucks they have a black Sharpie that they usually use to write your name on your cup, or like write what your drink is in your name? So she had taken the Sharpie on the lid, and she had written "you're cute" on it, which in retrospect doesn't sound like that huge of a deal, but at the time I was flipping out. I was so happy. I remember I immediately texted my best friend, and I was like, you know that really cute barista that I always tell you about? She wrote on my cup. I told all my coworkers, and I told everybody in my life that was like familiar with the situation. I was like, guess what happened? So then I didn't know what to do after that. I wanted to go back in and ask her for her phone number or give her my phone number, but I was so nervous. I was sweating. I had butterflies in my stomach. I couldn't think straight. Like, anytime I tried to go back in there, I was just like freaking out, hyperventilating. I couldn't do it. I told my friends, they were like, just go back in there and talk to her. Obviously she's interested, or she likes you. If she wrote, like, she took the time out to do that, like, it's obvious. And I was like, no, it's not obvious. She's probably thinks I'm a huge dork, or like she just feels bad for me because I have this big crush on her. And I just could not work up the courage to go back in. Plus, there was a Starbucks in the grocery store I worked at, so I could just get coffee from there. So I just avoided the situation for a long time. So fast forward a few weeks, I finally worked up the courage to go back inside. And she was nowhere to be found. So I thought, okay, I guess she's just not working today, maybe next time. But several weeks went by where I went in pretty much every day and I never saw her. It went on for kind of a long while, and I started to wonder if she was ever going to be in there again, if she had like moved away, if she'd been fired, if she quit, like what's going on. One day during my break from the sandwich shop I was working at, I went over to Starbucks and I ordered my drink, and I asked the barista what had happened, like where. I asked them where if she still worked there, like what was going on, because I knew her name from her name tag and everything. And they told me that she had gotten hurt and she was like taking some time off from working to get better, and that they didn't know how long it'd be till she'd be back. And at that point, kind of a long time had passed, so I was just like, okay, well, like, you know, it wasn't meant to be, that's fine, whatever. So some more time goes by, and I was on the Her app at the time. So the Her app, which is literally just spelled like the word her, H-E-R, it's a lesbian and bisexual and basically any queer girl dating app. I was using that to try to meet other people in the area because, like I said, I had just moved there, didn't really know anybody other than my coworkers. I ended up seeing her on there, and it said she was single, said she was a lesbian, thought it was cool, I liked her, and I went about my day like normal. I think I might have sent a screenshot of her profile to my best friend and been like, hey, look, it's that barista that I liked a long time ago that wrote on my cup. Like, isn't that funny that she's on? So I went to work at the sandwich shop, worked a full shift, came home at like 11 whenever we got off from closing and cleaning up the restaurant, and I had a notification on my phone, and it was from her. It was from her, the app, and it was from her, the barista, and she wrote, "You found me." And that's pretty much it. The rest is history. We started talking on the app, and we started texting, and then we went and saw a scary movie, and we basically just kept hanging out from that point forward and started dating. And actually, after a while, I started working at that same Starbucks. So that's my story of how I had a crush on a barista at Starbucks, and she wrote a cute note on my cup, and then we started dating. It's like a modern-day fairy tale romance. No, it actually was really cute, and it is one of my favorite stories to tell because, like, I don't know, it's definitely one of the cuter moments that I've had in terms of dating and life and stuff. So that's basically the story. This is my first time making a video, so I'm sorry if it sucked. I'm gonna try to get better with practice and time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you have any cute stories like this, leave them in the comments. I love reading cute little cliche love stories and romances. Subscribe on YouTube so that I have a reason to keep going with these and try to get better, and add me on social media as well. I have pretty much everything, so I will put all that information in the description of the video. And I will hopefully be back again soon with more content and more stories to tell. Bye! I'm so annoying. Bye, everybody.